If you want to rob a bank, you need a weapon. You need a getaway car. What if I told you in 1973, 3 Japanese high school girls managed to completely destroy a multi-million yen financial institute with nothing but one sentence. No weapons, no threats. Just one simple rumor that started at a high school. People were freaking out. They were running to the bank, demanding their life savings. The Bank of Japan had to step in to stop the panic. Police investigated what started it all, only to trace it back to 3 schoolgirls. It all started on a Saturday, December 8, 1973, on a regular commuter train ride on the Ida line in Aichi Prefecture. There were these 3 high school girls just hanging out on their way home. One of them, let's call her Girl A, proudly mentions to her friends that she just landed a job after graduation at the Toyokawa Shinkin Bank. Her 2 friends start teasing her, and they jokingly say, "Oh, you shouldn't work at a credit union. Those places are dangerous." Now when they said dangerous, they weren't talking about bad investments or bankruptcy. It was 1973, and banks were getting hit by robberies a lot in the news. So they literally meant, what if a guy with a gun walks in? It was just standard teenage banter. They all laughed it off. The train pulled into the station and they went home. But a relative of one of these girls overheard the word dangerous without context. And later that day, they told another family member that the Toyokawa Shinkin Bank might be in trouble. By Monday, December 10th, the relative told a neighbor, and the neighbor told someone else at the local market. By the time it went through a few people, the story mutated completely. It wasn't about a potential robbery anymore. The word became the bank is going under. And this is where human psychology takes over and makes everything worse, because people started looking for proof to confirm their new fear. On December 13th, a local businessman named Jay walked into a beauty salon in a nearby town called Kosakai to use their telephone. He didn't know anything about the rumor. He was just a guy running his business, and he called his assistant and said, "Hey, go ahead and withdraw 1.2 million yen from the Toyokawa Shinkin so we can pay our bills." The owner of the beauty salon heard him say this, and because she had already heard the rumor, she panicked. She thought, "Oh my god, it's true. Businessmen are pulling their money out right now." She immediately ran out and told her friends. The rumor spread like wildfire to the local taxi drivers next. A driver who worked that afternoon later testified how fast it escalated. At noon, a passenger told him, "I hear the bank is looking sketchy." By 2:30 p.m., another passenger said, "Yeah, that bank is dangerous." By 4:30 p.m., a third passenger told him, "It's definitely collapsing." And by the time he was driving people around that night, his passengers were saying, "There is no way that bank opens its shutters tomorrow morning." On Friday, December 14th, absolute chaos hits. People completely lost their minds. Thousands of citizens swarmed the bank's branches, clogging the streets and screaming to get their money back. People were quitting the shifts at factories midday just to sprint to the bank. The bank tried to put out statements saying they were financially stable, but every single thing they did was twisted by the crowd's panic. When the bank said they were freezing interest payments for a moment just to process the massive lines, people started shouting, "See, they can't even afford the interest." When local police officers arrived just to direct traffic and keep the peace, the crowd whispered, "The police are here because the directors are being arrested for fraud." There was even a secondary rumor that the bank's president had committed suicide and that a manager had run off with 500 million yen. None of it was true, but the crowd was too far gone to listen to logic. In less than 24 hours, panicked customers successfully drained over 2 billion yen from the bank. The only reason the bank didn't completely fold right then and there was because of the manager, a guy named Sanada. He realized you can't fight an emotional panic with dry explanations, so he fought it with visual proof. First, he ordered his staff to never close the doors at the normal 3 p.m. closing time. He told them that if the doors closed while people were still waiting, the crowd would think the money ran out and start a riot. So they kept paying out cash late into the night. Next, he had the Bank of Japan rush armored cars filled with physical cash to the branch. He didn't hide the money in the bank vault. He literally stacked massive walls of yen banknotes right behind the glass counters where the customers were waiting in line. He basically told the crowd, "Look at it. "We have more money than you can carry. Take whatever you want." He even called the regional Ministry of Finance live on the phone, hooked it up to the bank's internal loudspeaker system, and broadcasted the government official confirming the bank was perfectly safe, so the whole lobby could hear it. Seeing literal walls of physical cash and hearing the government on the speakers finally broke the spell. People realized the bank wasn't running out of money. The panic ran out of steam. And within a few days, the national police investigated the entire chain of gossip and traced it all the way back to those 3 girls on the train. So the question is, were these 3 girls arrested for spreading the rumor? Obviously, no. So in my research, I found an interesting thing. The reason why the rumor spread in the first place, at the same town, a couple years ago, another financial institute actually went bankrupt. A lot of people apparently at the time lost a lot of money. So before the incident already occurred, a lot of people were scared to lose their money. So how did the police actually find the girls? Basically, they traced everything back to the origin. They basically asked every person, "Who told you this? Where did you hear this from?" And eventually this led them back to one high school and one high school girl that started working at this exact bank. And that's how they found the origin of the story. So what do you guys think about the story? If you watched my previous video about Kuchisake Onna, you know that Japan has a history of going crazy over basically nothing. And I think this is another example of this. But let me know in the comments what you think about the story. So I live in Japan, and if you're curious what I do day to day, don't forget to follow me on my Instagram, where I post a reel every single day. Also, there's a Patreon in my description. Recently on my Patreon, I started to make video series where I speak into the mic and tell you about my own experience living here in Japan, and I basically tell you, if you want to move to Japan, what you have to do. So if that interests you, don't forget to check it out. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'm gonna see you in the next video. Bye.